Hi everyone. I'm going to mute you guys. We'll have a quick introduction by Ian, and then we'll go around and give a quick introduction one by one, so we don't talk over each other.
Okay, it's now 8 o'clock our time, so we'll make a start. Welcome everyone. I'm not sure, I can't see who's here or how many people are here at the moment. Savash will let me know once if any of the other staff come on board.
Hannes and Valerie are here, Ian.
Oh, good, Valerie. Okay. Hello, Valerie. Not driving this time?
Quite stationary.
That's good. That's good. To keep rid of this messages that keep coming up. Okay. Right. Welcome to the Internet of Everything Capstone project. This is going to be a different sort of MOOC to what we would normally run, but we'll talk about that further. First thing, I should point out that these seminars will be recorded, and I'll post them on YouTube and let you know exactly where they are fairly shortly. Hopefully I'll get them edited and up fairly early tomorrow. We didn't have the multiple invitations this time, so that is good. So what we're going to do first up is we're going to talk in this one generally just as an introduction. Next week we'll start covering, next fortnight we'll start covering the requirements, have a brief talk about what we're doing that particular couple of weeks, and then get the interaction going. So the advisors are here to try and help. We will try to be present for all of the sessions, but in some cases, because we have other jobs as well, that may not be possible, but we will have as many along as we can at any particular time. Excuse me again. That's not coronavirus, that is just me coughing. The people involved, oh good, David's come. Hello, David. The people involved as advisors on your projects in this particular unit are myself, Savash. Nazanin will be along a bit later, but she's currently on long service leave. Hannes, Valerie and David. Each of us will give a little spiel on what we do, what our expertise is and how we can actually assist you. But keep those names in mind. When we were discussing issues that you're having or questions that you have, ideas that you want to bounce off someone, it's best to use email direct to us. Use that IoT Capstone email address that you have in the courseware, and follow up on these emails if you don't get a reply in a couple of days. We'll get to them as quickly as we can, but sometimes it can be delayed. We do get a little busy. Don't be shy about reminding us to follow up on those. So we'll just run through the introduction of the staff first up. Savash, would you like to go first?
Sure. Hi everyone. I'm Savash. I'm an associate lecturer here at Curtin. My area of expertise is in embedded systems, sensors, microcontrollers or electronics, and that the technical implementation of IoT devices. I work very closely with Ian, and my research area is in assistive technology. I work with children with cerebral palsy and in a guide dog organization. So if you had any questions or interest in those sorts of projects, I'll be the guy to ask.
Okay, thank you. Hannes.
Hi, I'm Hannes. I'm from the Department of Computing at Curtin. In mathematical logic, I've gravitated into algorithm design and artificial intelligence. So I'm probably not the best person to ask on programming type questions. You're probably better off going to Valerie or maybe David for that. But if you're looking at talking about AI stuff or looking at designing a particularly complex algorithm, then I'm definitely a person to talk to. Good to meet you all.
Oh, thanks, Hannes. Valerie. Might be muted.
Valerie, you're unmuted now.
Sorry, there's a mute button on the cable as well as on the screen. So I'm Valerie. I'm a lecturer in computer science at Curtin. I teach mainly programming units. So I teach a Python programming unit for science and engineering, and I focus on the data science side of things. So anything about programming and a little bit towards the cloud and data analytics, I can help you with.
Okay, thank you, Valerie. David.
And my background is I'm a software engineer and computer scientist, and I have a dog that's barking in the background.
We have to get used to that sort of thing.
Yeah. So, and at the moment, I work a lot in geographic information science. So, a lot with location-based information and delivery of data and analytics using semantic web technologies, specifically around data, location data, as well as then I do a lot of stuff with iOS app development as well. So yeah, so I fall into a bit of the similar category, Valerie, into Python programming for data analytics, but more specifically with location embedded into it. And there's a variety of other things I do as well, but they're the ones I think are important at the moment. So,
and not to mention your iOS development stuff as well, which we won't.
Oh yeah, I run an iOS MOOC within edX as well as part of CurtainX.
Okay, and that leaves me, I suppose. I'm Ian. I'm a professor in electrical engineering, computing and mathematical sciences. My expertise is much along the same lines as Savash. Embedded systems mostly with a view to medical or assistive technology. So that's things to assist people with disabilities, access technology, or just live their daily lives. Electronic engineering, computer systems engineering is my background, and also cover a fair bit of networking, which is what Nazanin would normally do. But I also do networking, sensor networks, that sort of thing as well. Okay, at the end, we'll ask all of the students who are with us to introduce themselves, but just quickly want to go through a couple of pointers first. Ground rules. We've got people from many different places, many different cultures enrolled in this course. It's a lot smaller than their first time round. We've got roughly 40 students coming in this seminar, in this series. We had just over 100 last time, which was great, but rather busy. So bear in mind that people aren't from the same background as you. They will have a different view on things. They will have a very different skill set, which is a good thing as well. So we need to be polite and respectful of others. In these meetings, if you could use the raise hand button, which is in the chat window next to your name, when you want to say something or enter it into the chat, it makes it a lot easier for everyone. If we're not talking over the top of each other, everyone can get their turn, and makes it a little bit more listenable. We're going to mute everyone when you're not speaking, or if you could mute yourself, that would be handy because the background noise, I've got two very large dogs that love barking too, and that can get a little, not upsetting, but a little bit of a distraction. And also video. It's really nice if we can see who we're talking to, but it's not compulsory, of course, completely optional. But it would be nice if we could actually see you when you're talking. So what we'll do now is Sebastian's got the list. He can see who's on. We'll ask you to briefly introduce yourself, who you are, for our interest, where you're from, and if you have an idea, let us know roughly what sort of area you'd like to be working in. If you don't have an idea, tell us about some of your hobbies perhaps, and we can see if we can come up with an IoT idea that would suit either your hobby or your work. So I'll hand over to Sebastian, who'll run through the names, and if you give a brief introduction of yourself.
Okay, thank you, Ian. So I'm going to just go over the list from top to bottom. And when I call your name, please either unmute your mic and give a quick introduction, or if you're having audio problem, we can type your introduction in the chat. So I'm going to start with Alex. Would you mind giving us a quick introduction?
It's Alexander from Norway. I'm 41 years old and I've been working with VoIP technology for about 20 years. And for the IoT idea, I think I will go for a water management system for fresh water fish farming. That's it.
Okay, Thank you very much. Okay, I'm gonna and Asali, you're next. Would you mind giving us a quick introduction?
My name is Amina Sahli. I'm from Libya. I'm 32 years old. Graduated from engineering, electrical engineering. I'm actually telecommunication engineering. I'm working on the IoT field company in the same place, Libya. Researching and prototyping. I'm very interested in this field, and I want to expand my knowledge and experience. So that's why I applied on this program. So I'm really very excited. Yeah, meeting you all.
Would you mind telling us what sort of area and what sort of topic you're interested for your project?
I'm interested in smart cities and smart roads. So this is where I'm trying to focus on. I have multiple ideas. We may discuss about it maybe later. Discuss which one I will go for. Actually, yeah, I have my colleague here. We all together applied on this course together. We might work together as well. We didn't decide which project yet we will go for, but I'm sure we will get what we want. Yeah. Thank you all.
Good. I'll just throw something in there as well. We strongly encourage collaboration, but you do need to have something that you can identify as your own work for the assessment. It's not a big issue. It's just if we look at a larger project like something in smart cities, we can divide the project into people's responsibility. That's what you write your report on. That's what you do your planning on. But it can be done together quite easily, and we have done that in the past.
Yeah, of course.
Collaboration is always good.
Of course, yeah, of course. Totally agree.
Okay, thank you for that. So going down the list, Cherry is next. Would you mind giving us a quick introduction? You got cut off there.
Maybe, okay, I'm Sherry Saley. I'm in the U.S. near Chicago, and I'm a senior hardware engineer, and I work in medical imaging. Because of the confidentiality concerns, I'm going to be doing a project as an aquarium monitor. So keep track of my fish tank, the water level, check for leaks because the leaks can be disastrous when it comes to also these tanks. So this is the program I'm looking
at. Thank you, Jerry. You got cut off a bit there, but since you mentioned confidentiality, I just want to add here, there were a number of students who reached out to us saying that they want to discuss the details. Mute you. They didn't want to discuss the details of their project. That's fine. In case you want to make it commercial or if part of an intellectual IP. But please let us know when you have the whole idea in place. Please let us know, because some assessments are peer assess, which means you'll be marking other people's project, and if you don't want your project to be part of that peer assessment because of an IP issue, we'll remove you from that list. You'll still be marking other people as well for the peer assessment sections, but it's just that if your project is a confidential project, other people wouldn't be able to see it. It would be just us, the faculty, would be seeing it. All right.
We have done this previously. We had a few people in the last course that were working on commercialization of an idea, and we didn't release any of their reports, information, anything else. So we're quite used to the confidentiality.
Okay, I'm going to go down the list. Cielo 11, would you mind giving a quick introduction for us? You're unmuted, but we don't hear any audio coming through. Okay, would you mind, I'm gonna mute you. Would you mind giving your introduction in the chat, and we'll get back to you. Next person in the list, Sirat.
Hi, thank you. My name is Carsten. I'm living in Germany, in Aachen, Germany. My academic background is production operations engineering, and I'm currently working as a consultant in the area of manufacturing optimization. And this is the area where my IoT solution will also fit in. So I'm targeting to overcome our problems with not available data or bad quality data at the customer side, and want to build an IoT solution that consistently gets some data and does some basic analysis on it. So we have a sort of foundation to work on.
Sounds interesting.
Thank you for that. Okay, next person on the list, Malik, would you mind giving us a quick introduction?
Hi everyone, my name is Faisal Malik. I'm practical engineer, and I have 15 years of experience in mostly in the telecommunication. Nowadays, I'm working in the Perth, Western Australia, on the NBN project for the quality assurance aspects. I joined the course 2 years ago. I completed the coursework, and now it's the final thing is doing the project. To be honest, I'm a bit scared of all the situation and the risk going on due to the COVID-19 issue, and I'm fear that all the collaborative resources or the hardware things which I'm supposed to do is that I may not get. I sent you guys an email as well. Till the project, I haven't decided anything yet. I'm a bit confused about that, and I may need the help of you guys. I'm not very good at the programming because I mostly deal with the operation side of telecom systems, and now the and these things. I did well in the course, but I may need your help in this regard in deciding the topics.
Yeah, that's what we're here for, and I'm sure we can come up with something.
Sure.
Maybe not directly NBN, but there's lots of options there, and we can have a chat after everyone's had their intro and see if we can find something of your particular interest. We're all a little nervous about the COVID-19 situation, but fingers crossed. Perth, we're doing fairly well.
Yeah. Thank you.
Speak up, please.
Thank you, Malik. And I'll just add to that because I read your email. Don't worry about not having technical knowledge with this specific area, because there are different aspects of the project you can focus on. We've had people with pure management backgrounds doing this course, and so then the project ends up being the design and the preparation for the implementation of the project rather than more technical aspects of it. So as we move along in the seminars, we'll talk about kind of what level of these implementation you can focus on. Ideally, because I'm embedded system engineer, I would be more interested in the more technical aspects, but that doesn't mean if you don't have that technical aspects, you won't be able to present a very good and very well presented document as your final report. So
yeah, I'll just throw something else in there. This is one of the nice things about this type of course. We do have that wide range of people joining. We have, I won't repeat my vet story, but we have people from all sorts of backgrounds. We did have a vet, we had a marine engineer in the last one, and each of these people bring their own aspects to the project. So if you're a business orientated person, as Savash said, we'd be looking at a good plan, commercialization, intellectual property factors, those sort of things in your final report. But the idea would be that a business person would gain enough technical knowledge to know how to speak to technical people. So they will speak the right language, they will know what the requirements are, they'll be aware of complexities and difficulties in those areas. And it works the other way around too. A lot of us techie people aren't very good at marketing, aren't very good at business plans. And the business people can actually assist us in developing our business plans, but we'll focus more on the technical implementation. So we are aware of people's different abilities. The course is designed to allow for people's different abilities and to focus on their strengths and build up the areas where it's necessary to understand, but not necessarily be expert in. So I wouldn't be concerned about the lack of understanding of any one particular area.
Thank you, Ian. So next person on the list, Khalid. Would you mind giving us a quick introduction?
Hi. Hi, my name is Khalid Al-Zain. You can call me Hummus. I live in Libya. I'm 29 years old. I graduated with the area field of computer networks and communication. Also, I've studied some custom program on MBA, business development in Cambridge Business School. And now I'm working on some IoT prototyping projects because I was interested in robotics, and then the IoT field came in my career development. So I have to work on that field because it's interesting. I've done a published paper on IEEE on robotic controlling over Wi-Fi. I've developed a server using socket programming and cross-platform in 2012, where I was able to control from Nokia Symbian operating system. And I'm developing myself on programming languages such as Flutter now for iOS and Android. So we might need to develop a mobile app for IoT. And also, I'm working on research from 7 years so far. I have done another paper on assistive technology, published with WHO, World Health Organization. We've done some SWOT analysis and pistol analysis, also TOS analysis for market research and assistive technology benefits in Libya. Also, I sent you an email. I work with my colleague Amina, as she said previously. We have a group of ideas. I can start with the first one as a brief. It's a smart traffic light. We've done the prototype. You've seen the pictures. The prototype has been made in-house, and we've developed the code with PHP, Python, and C++ for Arduinos. We've used a couple of resources, and we still lack of some resources in development to get a perfection. So we've done only one prototype. We're looking to create a network of small traffic light to reach the green wave. You can drive your car without stopping. That's what we're looking for. That's the first one. The second idea, I think it's a gate to clean our sanitize people moving due to coronavirus nowadays. So the issue is you have to refill the tank with the liquid. So we have think about a sensor and the LoRa technology to measure. It's almost like garbage bin collectors, but it's in a opposite direction. You have to refill the tanks. And that's with some machine learning and forecasting, you get which you need to refill before it's empty. That's yeah. The third idea is about optimizing lights of the roads. So normally people deploy sensors like photon sensor to sense is it still sunny outside or not. Those sensors gonna come up with the. I'm talking too much, right? Okay. Those sensors are covered with the dust over time. So instead of using sensors, we thought about using API of Google Weather and decide which time this device is on. So the actuators will be based on Google Weather to tell, oh, for example, yeah, if there is any other API we can use, is good. So we didn't decide yet which idea we are going to. The first one is truly business, the idea. We have developed the project charter and some business case and some close calculation, but it's not like the professional in a professional way. We are looking to develop more, and your input is highly welcome for us to develop ourselves. As finally, as I said, I'm working with my colleague, and anyone wants to collaborate. At some point, we can do a teamwork to get a better result. Thank you.
Just a quick question. That water tank one you were talking about, that was for drinking water? I kind of missed a little bit of that.
That was the hand sanitizer.
Hand sanitizer.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, not just hands, a whole body. So you walk into a gate, and the gate will clean, will spray the sanitizer on. That's why we need a sensor to think about how to measure the water, the liquid level in the tank. So we don't need to refill it every day. It might need to be refilled 5 days, every 5 days or every week, depends on the usage.
Okay, they're all good ideas. We can talk about those as well. So.
Thank you, Khaled. And I have read your email and I responded. I know you guys had some concern about which team to join, depending which idea you ended up going with. I'm just going to say, at this stage, you don't have to be kind of dedicated to one of the teams. If in the future it does turn out, depending on how the project gets developed, the topic of it is closer to one of the other teams, you can switch your team easily. So that shouldn't be a problem. And the teams are there just more as a guideline, so you can talk to people who are working in the same sort of area to kind of bounce ideas off each other. All right. So, Michael, would you mind giving us a quick introduction?
Together. My name is Michael Schnabel. I'm from Germany. I'm working as a network and system administrator for a research facility, in neuroscience. And the idea came out of the animal housing they are doing. So we have local authorities, so you have to make sure that the housing conditions are in a stable condition. And on the other hand, making sure that experiments are always using the same conditions when using the animals. And we checked quite a lot of solutions, but on the one hand, they are very expensive. On the other hand, they are too simple, and you have many stations around and could not centralize the monitoring and so. And that's why my idea came up using Bluetooth LE and EPS32 microcontrollers to pick up the data from sensors and send them somehow centralized to Wi-Fi to a storage, whether cloud storage or local storage, where a database runs, and they can do all the monitoring stuff, creating reports, charts, and whatever. Yeah, so that's my thing.
Yep, sounds spot on for IoT.
Thank you, Michael. All right, next person on the list, Muhammad, would you mind giving us a quick introduction?
Hi, everyone. My name is Muhammad Kamoun. I'm from Lebanon. I reside in Doha, Qatar. I'm the sales and operation manager for a systems integration company here in Qatar. We do the building controls, automations, BMS, lighting control, home automation. I graduated with the BE in Computer and Communications back in 2005. So I have almost around 13 years of experience in this domain. I actually decided to join this, to take this course, the IoT, in order to get a summary of many things related to connecting the things into the web. And this summary would help me to pursue a lot of ideas I've been working on, including something related to artificial intelligence and a hybrid AI that would be used later within the building controls. There are many ideas related to this industry. I just went with the simple one. I already wrote about it in the past in one of the topics. It's about a filter sensor for the ventilation equipment. It's basically just to get the status of the filter, whether it's dirty or clean, outside of the traditional BMS and automation, in order to make a more informing reports for the stakeholders, plus create a sort of a data sets over a long period of time, where we can feed it for a certain algorithms, where we can predict the likelihood during a certain season when the filters will get dirty or how fast they are getting dirty, so that we give this information to the service providers, including the facility management as well, and the people who are coming from outside the facility to change the filters or maintain the filters. It's actually basically the filters for the HVAC equipment, for the fans and heat and the air handling units, etc. So that's they can act accordingly, and we can keep a history of this data, and we can share the analytics about it, etc. So that's basically it's a simple yet a little complex idea. It involves at different levels, and I thought that it's good idea to present and work on. As I said, my experience is within the sales, and I do draft designs and concepts for a complete integrated solution. I do as well programming. I know well in the Java, I can build a complete MERN app as well. So this would be helpful. But I will be glad to help the other team members to work together. I can contribute on the sales side, on the commercial side, as well as on the technical programming or the whole idea as a concept, as a complete development. So that's basically my background. I'm very happy to join you guys.
Thank you.
That's a really interesting one. And just a comment, you mentioned the prediction of when the filters will be full or need cleaning. This is one of the key aspects that we found with our industry partners, that looking for this ability to only do maintenance when the maintenance is required. Yep. So in this LNG plant, they use audio to detect when bearings in the cooling fans are starting to fail. I used to have to go around and check them continually, and after a certain period of time, remove them, replace the bearings, even if they weren't faulty. And this was really, really expensive. They didn't have a choice, because if the fan went, the cooling fan went, you could have an explosion at a LNG plant, which is really, really bad.
You will start with an issue, and then you will end up with other issues on the plant.
Yep. So the idea that you're looking at only fixing things that need to be fixed is really a key part of the IoT, in my opinion.
And it's actually making more efficient the addressing the issue, because we all know that there might be a facility management team at site, but normally they do the sort of a preventative maintenance schedule. But at sometimes until the maintenance schedule is, until they come to the site or visit the site, you might have already an issue accumulated in the equipment, in the unit, or whatever. So it's just to have more efficient addressing to this issue, and as well, saving the data for future prediction.
And that's got application in a lot of areas.
True.
Thank you, Mohammed. And last on the list, Ron, would you mind giving us a quick introduction?
Okay, good, because I still see the microphone with a bar through it. Perfect. Right, I'm Ron. I'm in the UK. I used to be a COBOL developer. COBOL is a bit old, but shows my age a bit. I moved on into solution architecture. Last 15 years, I've been specializing in CRM platforms. Currently, I'm specializing in Salesforce. I'm interested in all sorts of new technology, the blockchain, AI, IoT, obviously. Last month, my last contract ended, and so now I'm starting literally a little thing on the side, which focuses more on housing development that runs from sourcing the land up to literally building the houses, getting tenants in, all the bits in between. And I noticed there is, let's say, both from a profit perspective, but also from a demographic perspective, there's far more interest in housing for, let's say, the older people, as in 50+-ish. So I'm looking both for my current project as well as this study to see if there is something interesting I can do with IoT in that area. Ideally, something that is proactive, preventing certain things, monitoring. I'm not sure yet what, but something in that area. I'm sure there will be a few bits and pieces that I can apply. And also, the nice thing is, because I'm in touch with lots of people who literally build houses from, let's say, areas of 5 houses up to 500, it would be nice to, let's say, feed them a little and see what their feedback is. Maybe even do some implementations here or there, but that's in the future.
That's an interesting area. We've actually got a few projects going at the moment in smart housing, particularly for the aging population. One of the key issues is, of course, dementia and Alzheimer's and detecting that early. So it might be worth having a think about ways that you can monitor for changes in behaviour. For instance, taking 3 or 4 showers a day when they normally only took 1. And just looking at one sort of aspect of how you could detect and predict changes in behaviour might be something that's really quite useful and could be built into the house. The other things, of course, are the traditional one, looking for fall detection, lack of motion, not eating by not opening the fridge, for example. But it tends to spread out to far too much to cover in a course like this, so it might be an idea just to look at 1 or 2 aspects to begin with. It's very interesting. We'll be able to give you a fair bit of background information on that. We're working with one commercial system that's in retirement villages, developing the AI behind decision making in that monitoring.
Right.
Yeah, there was one.
Sorry.
Okay. There was.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ron. Savash, there was one person who typed things in.
Yes, so they said they're from Francesco from Italy. They have a degree in economics and economic sciences. They're 41 years old and they're interested in automotives, and they had an idea for automatic fog lights to implement for their project.
Okay, be nice to bring some prediction into that with APIs. David, I think, actually found a really good weather API, which we'll bring up at some point in the near future. Unless you can remember off the top of your head what it was, David?
I'm thinking, was it Open Weather API or Weather Open API? I now have to know.
Yeah.
I think Open Weather.
Open Weather API, because I'm pretty sure, Savash, when you made notes of it for us. So, yeah, it's a really good one.
It was global too, wasn't it?
Yeah, totally.
Good. Okay, thanks everyone. Hopefully you've got an idea of what other people are working on, and we can look at fine-tuning those ideas as we go along. In the coming weeks, what we need to do is, as I said, this MOOC is very different to ones you've done in the past. The material that we've got on the edX platform itself is there mostly just as a support. It's to help you through things like the project management, intellectual property, and the other mostly non-technical aspects of taking a product to prototype, if we can get that far. The main drive in it is actually contacting the staff who are here to help. We've got 5 staff, I think, at the moment, each with their own area of expertise, and it's really taking advantage of that, and also your teammates. So work with each other, discuss things on the discussion board. We'll monitor those as much as we can, but if you've got specific questions, talk to us. We're here to help. So send an email through to that IoT Capstone email address. If you know the person who would be best suited to answer that question, so if it was a programming question that you had, put their name in the subject line, so you'd have either Valerie or David in that case. If you wanted something on embedded, put Savash's name in the subject line. Okay, so when you're proposing your idea, it's really good to be quite ambitious in what you would like to be able to do. It's easier to draw up the milestones if you know what your stretch goals are. So don't be shy about putting forward ideas. It may seem a little out there. We've had lots of people come up with ideas that we thought may not be achievable, and they've actually achieved them. So there's no harm in being rather creative in how you set your goals. At this point, when you've got your idea sorted out, start thinking seriously about the requirements. What is the absolutely necessary things that need to be done for this to be commercially successful? And then you can rank them into what things are, as I said, essential, what would be nice to have, and in a perfect world, what would you have this do? And in that way, you can start setting up your milestones to suit those requirements. Get a product out, and in many cases, when you're trying to produce a new product, you want to get it out nice and early so you can start having an income stream. You can then add your features on to make it more valuable or more marketable to your clientele at a later date. So bring your version 2, 3, 4 up later on with all the extra features you want. But if you've got these marked down as milestones in your project plan, it makes it much easier to implement and stick to that guidelines. Last little point that I'd like to make is make a list of questions. It's very handy if you've got things prepared when you come to these meetings, so that we can answer your questions quickly and efficiently and get through everyone's questions in the allocated time. And posing the questions quite often triggers a thought in your teammates. They'll think, oh yeah, I would have run across that problem before, or they may have already solved it. And they'll be able to help out with that as well. So, excuse me. That's about it that we wanted to cover tonight. As I said, it was only an introduction. We'll cover more detailed information in the coming seminars. But as I said, main thing is talk to us. Talk to your teammates, talk to us. So if you've got questions now, we're happy to hang around for a little while. Well, Savash and I will anyway. David, Valerie might have other things they need to do. But we're happy to continue to talk. And if you want to try and finalise your ideas a little bit more or explore something completely different, please stick your hand up in the chat window and we'll have a chat about those.
Yes, so I'll just remind everyone, next to your name in the chat window, there's a little hand option. When you click on that,
stop sharing my screen.
That'll show me that you have a question. So please go ahead and if you want, you can also type your question in the chat and we'll read it that way. Any questions or?
Was it Faisal that was actually wanting to talk about a possible? Oh, there we go. Mohammed.
Yep. Mohammed, please go ahead.
Yeah, I have actually a question about the topics. Are you guys going to modify the topic set on edX? Because I don't know where to go further explaining the idea or ask the questions. You know, it might be fuzzy later on if each person will be asking question in a different under a different topic while he's working on an idea, which is not as a on a separate topic on its own. I mean, now I'm trying to like post about my idea, but under the topics which is related to the smart home or home automation, smartphones, there's only one topic mentioned, and where I've seen everyone is joining, and then each one is mentioning his own idea under the same idea. So it's like a bit confusing. I don't know how this would be sorted out. Yeah.
Those topics are only there as a guide, a way of starting people thinking about things. What is best is if you come up with something completely on your own, and we use these broad categories to group people together so that you're not seeing irrelevant information. We may in fact move it back to only having 1 or 2 groups because of the having 40 people. It's not too many, but we'll see how active it gets, and it's really just so that you're roughly in the same area as other people. It's not saying you have to do this. There is no have-tos at all in this. You can do whatever you like. If there is nowhere that looks suitable, and we've had a few of these, if there's no group that looks suitable, well, we'll put you into or suggest the group that looks most suitable.
Understood.
Right, so this is not hard and fast. It's up to you.
Yeah, thanks.
You can change groups as well.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mohammed. And please, when if you don't have a question, click on that button again so your hand gets lowered. All right. Anyone else? Any questions?
We had someone that hasn't made up their mind. Was it Faisal? Faisal?
I think so. Faisal, was that you who were thinking about an idea or?
Yes, I'm still thinking about the idea and where I can pitch in this whole scenario.
Yeah. What hobbies do you have? Hobbies are always a good way to start.
I normally read books, movies, and these sort of stuff, and also study these things. I have studying your course. Also, I have taken some course from the Harvard, so that's what I do in the free time.
Okay. Yes, we'll have a think. Because if you're in the networking side, it might be worth concentrating on that that side of things. In fact, if you looked at some of the tracking, do you deal with the 5G at all?
Not yet. I'm dealing with the optical fiber, laying of optical fiber and these stuff for the NBN.
Lovely stuff. I got it in my house. Yeah. Okay, well, we'll have a think. But if you get any ideas or you want to have another chat, just let us know. There's lots of things on human movement. They're always an interesting one to do. Looking at health, if you're worried about the coronavirus, looking at ways of monitoring people's movement, how close you get to other people, tracking where you've been, and David would be ideal to help you with that one. So if you look at a company solution, for example, where every employee is tracked where they're going, and as they approach other employees, that's marked that you had an interaction with that employee. So that if there is a contagion on one person, you can see every single one of your employees that they've actually been in physical contact with. And you can build a pattern of this up and look at who's likely to talk to somebody else before you get in contact with them. So if normally at 3 o'clock you go and see your area manager, then they would warn the area manager, don't let you in because you've been in contact with someone who had the contagion. Look along those sort of lines, and it's sort of fairly general and can be applied to a lot of things outside of our current COVID situation.
Sure. I'm looking for that, and also actively searching from the last 3-4 days on the internet and all these things, gathering ideas, talking to my friends and the people, so get the ideas with the people which are already in the IoT, these gathering idea. Hopefully in the next 3-4 days I will get something.
Okay, good. Okay, we got anyone else that would like to chip something in? Hannes, you got anything that you'd like to add?
Not really. There were a few things there that seemed to be related, which gets my interest, but no, not so much.
Okay.
Ian, you can always use this opportunity to talk about your favorite project again.
Okay, I'll talk about my favorite project. This is a project from the last run of the MicroMasters, and I just thought it was a classic case of somebody who thinks of something you wouldn't normally think of. He was a vet, and his main business was looking after horses. So rather expensive animals normally, expensive to own if you've ever had the misfortune of owning a horse. And what he was designing is a system to monitor the health of horses under his care, so he wouldn't have to go and visit all that often. And it turns out that one of the key diagnostic tools that you use on horses is you look at the colour of their mucus. So part of his project was actually designing a system where he could sample and then identify the colour of horse nose mucus. And I just thought that was a really interesting application of the IoT. And his idea then was, he could actually track this remotely, look at trends, how things are spreading, condition of horses. And it covered lots of less interesting things like their breathing, the way they were walking, heart rate, temperature, etc. So that's what I mean by thinking out of the box. It's looking at ways of doing things that you wouldn't normally do. And if you look back at that cow video that we put on the early MOOCs, the fact that you look at their head movement to measure whether they're eating or not. And that's one of the really key parts of the IoT. The really nice things you can do is you take a sensor which is designed for a certain purpose, and from the information you're getting from that sensor or that combination of sensors, you actually infer something completely different. If we look at a simple example, when we're measuring the salinity of water, we're not actually measuring the salt in the water, we're measuring the conductivity of the water and then inferring what the salinity level is because of the change in conductivity. And if you start to think of sensors not as direct sensing of what they're designed for, but what you can infer from that information, you can start looking at some really interesting things to do. So I got my horse story in anyway.
Along those lines, because there were a mention of a couple of smart ideas, along what Ian mentioned, I'm glad we had a couple of students here at Curtin working on those ideas, and one of the examples is to monitor if someone has visited a certain room. They're looking at whether the light has been turned on in that room or not, so to kind of find a pattern. So again, another example of a sensor that's there to detect light, but we're using that information to infer whether the room is being used or not. So there are interesting ways of looking at the sensors just beyond what they're kind of being used for. So we have a couple of more minutes here. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to ask them here.
Well, we could talk about your favourite sensor, the IMUs, inertial measurement units.
Definitely one of the more useful sensors these days are IMUs, which are basically an accelerometer, gyroscope, and a magnetometer all built in on the same chip. And they're useful because you can capture movement with them. And of course, you can have motion cameras and expensive equipment to capture someone's full motion body movement. But with IMU sensors, there are very interesting projects currently going on. I'm using them for my own research with the monitoring wrist movement for children with cerebral palsy. We're using them to monitor the movement of guide dogs. And my wife's working on a project for Ian and David, monitoring a white cane movement to build a remote training system. So she has multiple sensors connected to the white cane and to one of the legs of the person who's being trained, and she's inferring the data to determine how the person is walking. And later on in the course, I'll show you a bit more some of the more practical examples of these sensors. So if you're looking at motion capture, IMUs are very interesting devices to kind of look at.
Khalid.
Khalid, go ahead, please.
For the IMU, I'll go back for the first project we have developed. We have used a LiDAR sensor to scan the road, which goes with the 2 servo motors. It goes from down and scan the road to the 40 meters, because this is the maximum range can get from the LiDAR we have been using. The problem is when we are going to deploy the system, the LiDAR with the machine learning algorithm has to go down and calculate the height he's on. Then with the specific algorithm and the equation, it can calculate the distance with a specific angle. So it's like height 4 and angle, let's say 30, it has to be, it's like Pythagoras, but it's costed. The problem is when there are wind on the pool, affecting the pool, so the pool will vibrate. So we were thinking about using IMU here to add an input for the equation. So when it's vibrate, it can correct the errors. Because this is one of the things we are considering in the future.
If you want to shoot an email to me, we had some significant amount of work done on using IMUs for image stabilization in video. It's not exactly the same, but because we were putting cameras on guide dogs and white canes, they were consistently moving and we needed to de-blur the images. Some of it might actually be transferable to that. I take it you're storing this as a point cloud initially. And as such, it might be a relatively simple method of adjusting the vibration in the LiDAR system.
Also, the system deployment, where we deployed the system, we had to balance it. It calculates the right angle. With IMU, you don't have to. This is why we are considering it in the future.
Well, it'll give you that initial orientation, so you won't have to work out the angles. You'll know if it's mounted physically on the LiDAR, you'll be able to tell what orientation it's in and correct for that every time the car stops, in fact.
This is what prototyping, you have to test them, then you find your errors and try to fix them.
Yeah, so LiDARs are an interesting thing. They're becoming really, really cheap now. I've got one in my office that was $70 or $80.
We are using the outdoor ones. That's with the IP65, I think, I67. It's a waterproof one. It's $440. And the other one is a bit cheap. It's not waterproof, but it's a bit cheaper. We decided to use the outdoor ones because we are deploying it from the pool and it might be affected with the dust and water or rain.
Yeah, we talk a little bit about that sort of thing later in the course, where we do prototyping, environmental protection, using 3D printing to make up your custom cases, those sort of things. So we'll cover a little bit of that later on.
Okay, and just last question about the next steps, what we should do. And shall we just post our ideas, or we discuss more with you guys, with the teams and the supervisors, which idea is suitable for us for the time as well, so we don't get a bigger idea and work a lot of and waste a lot of time. 3 months, we don't have a lot of time.
Yeah. Post your ideas in the discussion boards. We'll have a look. If there's anything specific, as I said, email the Capstone, IoT Capstone email address. Keep working through the material that's on the edX platform. We're going to do a bit of brainstorming in there with the lean canvas that you'll produce. So that will get some of the ideas a little bit more formalised, and then we'll take the next steps at our next meeting. So next couple of weeks is really just finalising your idea, getting some of the requirements down, set your milestones based on what is absolutely required, what would be nice and what's ideal. And we can then start discussing whether they're realistic or could do more, or is there already a solution there that we can pass on to you. Okay, if there's no other questions, I think we'll call it a night for us anyway.
Yes. Thank you, everyone.
Sure. Thank you very much. Look forward to interacting over the coming months, peoples. Take care and stay safe.